It is quite impossible to consider the building one thing and its furnishings another. They are all mere structural details of its character and completeness. When Frank Lloyd Wright designed the Robie house in the early 1900s, he created a template for modern living, which would continually define residential architecture through modern day. Hi everyone, Ken here. Welcome to This House. Today we are exploring the house that defied tradition and established our modern way of living. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a fascinating episode of This House. Before open floor plans became the norm in residential construction, most American homes featured a series of smaller rooms dedicated to choice functions. But Frank Lloyd Wright rebelled against this idea, arguing that spaces should be continuous, flexible, and above all else, in harmony with nature and their surroundings. He developed a school of thought based on these principles, which would later be named by scholars the Prairie School. This approach to design emphasized long, horizontal lines and open space, tying back to the expansive prairies of the Midwest, with craftsmanship taking the place of ornamentation, conveying strength and persistence in contrast to the artistic styling found in the Gilded Age and Victorian-era architecture of the time. The way in which we interact with our homes can be traced back to a single house. Finished in 1910, the Robie house on the south side of Chicago's Hyde Park neighborhood became that very house. Frank Lloyd Wright arranged the facade to exaggerate its horizontal lines by incorporating low-pitched roofs cantilevering far beyond the structure's curtain walls. To further emphasize the horizontal, he instructed that two separate mortars be used to join the brick, a terracotta color for vertical joints and a cream-colored mortar for horizontal joints, creating an illusion from a distance that each row of bricks was one continuous linear element. The interior of the home was centered around a massive chimney, punctured by 4 fireplaces, from which each main public space would be anchored. The overall effect led to an open floor plan, the likes of which the world had never seen before. Entering the home from the sidewalk, you would pass along a brick terrace before passing below it to find the front door hidden in the shadows. You would then arrive in the entrance hall, with low ceilings compressing the dimly lit space around you. On the first floor, you would find a billiards room, a playroom, and rooms for utilities, including a broiler and a coal storage room. But if you approached the stairs, you would see natural sunlight illuminating the climb to the main floor of the house on the second level. As you arrive in the stair hall, the massive chimney obscures your view of the dining room and living room. In these spaces, you would find custom furniture, carpets, lamps, all designed by Wright and his associates, to perfectly balance the interior decor with the architectural elements tying the spaces together. To remove the boundary between indoor and outdoor spaces, Wright incorporated curtain walls composed of art glass opening onto terraces covered by the roof's cantilevered eaves. To achieve this, he removed the necessity for the walls to support the ceiling by utilizing steel beams anchored in piers on 2 sides of the house. The ceiling inside was decorated with simple, linear elements directing the eye towards light sources, such as globes and screens, allowing both electric and natural light to flood each space. The dining room housed furniture designed specifically to suit its space against a backdrop of art glass angled to become one of the 2 prows we saw on the exterior. All throughout the house, Wright played with shadows and lighting to exaggerate space with dramatic effect. He further relied on perfect craftsmanship to create straight lines to guide the eye and delineate spaces. The openness of the floor plan allowed for flexible use of each space with minimal separation for function. The ability of the interior of the home to echo the exterior was found not only in the design of the furnishings, but also in the design of the kitchen, with continuous cabinet lines behind glass panels and a central island, of which the surface was made to cantilever in the likeness of the roof's overhanging eaves. Up until 1926, the house changed hands along with its furnishings from owner to owner, until it was sold to the Chicago Theological Seminary, which essentially gutted the house to use as a dining hall. As they were throwing the furniture in the dumpster, one of the seminary's janitors pulled most of the discarded furniture out to save, In 1941, the seminary announced plans to demolish the house, causing a massive protest to ensue. But as things started to heat up during World War II, those plans were put on hold. In 1957, the seminary once again announced plans to demolish the Robie house and replace it with dormitories, prompting international outrage. Protests, letters, articles, and speeches were directed by prominent architects around the world, including notable architect Mies van der Rohe, who had gained inspiration from Wright's work. Frank himself, at the age of 90 years old, even participated in the protest, taking shots at the seminary saying, "It all goes to show the danger of entrusting anything spiritual to the clergy." Realizing that they would not budge on their plans, Wright reconnected with his old fraternity, Phi Delta Theta, which was located just a couple doors up the street. With the help of another fraternal organization, negotiations were put forth to demolish the fraternity houses for the dormitories instead of the Robie house. Thankfully, the seminary found this to be a suitable compromise and spared the Robie house from demolition. But the house was still in terrible shape. It had been stripped of its glorious detail and desecrated by its users. One of Frank's friends, real estate developer William Zeckendorf, purchased the Robie house and donated it to the University of Chicago. The seminary's janitor then donated the furniture, which he had rescued, to the university, and it was slowly put back together. Finally, in 2002, the house was turned over to the Frank Lloyd Wright Trust, who began painstakingly putting the house back together as it was in 1910. Then, in 2019, the organization completed its restoration and preservation work, opening the house to the public for tours. While much of the interior now appears as it did over 100 years ago, several of the furniture collections have made their rounds to various museums, such as the dining room set, which can be found at the Smart Museum of Art in Chicago. If you have had the opportunity to visit and tour since the house has been open to the public, I would love to hear about your experience down below in the comments section. And while you're there, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a fascinating episode of This House. I would also like to take a moment to say a very special thank you to our This House supporters, whose names you can see on screen right now. If you would like to see your name on the screen and contribute in part to the production of these videos, join our membership program today. I'll see you next time on This House.